what is the short-term and the medium-term outlook of early-stage investors during this period of turmoil?
Yeah. So thank you for having me. But let me straight away dive into the answer. I think there are no rules here because this is the first time we are entering this territory. There's no playbook. We pretty much have to develop the playbook along the way. Our first focus when this happened was really our portfolio, because look, there are companies we've invested in and they need to raise funds. Many conversations on many. What we did was we suddenly started seeing those conversations fall apart. So a lot of focus went from pipeline and looking at promising entrepreneurs. Those conversations just paused, and we all said, let's just double down on our pipeline. On our portfolio. And the focus there was really, is there a COVID lift? So if it's edtech, that's great. And do they have money? If both, that's great. Like Unacademy, Class Plus, roll. Just this is the moment that you've been waiting for. There'll never be a better time. If there's a COVID lift, but funds are a little this thing, then quickly kind of do a bridge round. And there are a few fintech and healthcare companies where we haven't had to do a bridge round. We're just a little cautious and line up that funding. The challenge has been with companies where we don't have that, neither a COVID lift nor the runway. If there's a runway, it's still fine. So unfortunately, focus has been on that. Hence, pipeline has taken a natural push back. But now, beginning to see interest from Series A investors, the analysts have started reaching out. As the lockdown started kind of getting ready to lift, there is an interest. That said, I think a lot of the interest is going to be on sectors which are getting a kind of a COVID lift. There's a lot of interest in edtech, naturally, to an extent on media, healthcare, fintech. Anything small business connecting, anything where you're adding essentials or anything in that category, seeing a lot of interest. If it's travel, if it's that, I don't think, and even my attitude is, if I get a really, even a hot team with a travel startup, my natural instinct is, hey guys, I don't think, let's revisit this in 6 months or 8 months. So I would say that I think it's, for a month, it just went off. We didn't know what was happening. And while we tweet it out that we're always open for business and all that, that's good marketing message. End of the day, you're focused on your portfolio. And pipeline takes us, goes back to the back of the room. But now we've started looking at, are there any interesting ones? Like some of the older conversations sometimes, I don't think any new ones are really beginning, but some of the older conversations, there are enough in the pipeline, enough in the stack rank. We started having a look at them, especially if it's in essentials, is agri-tech, ed-tech, fintech, those are things. So I would say VCs are cautiously optimistic. Medium term, no one knows if there's going to be a second wave, etc. Short term, I think beginning to kind of talk. I think the really strong teams, I'm not seeing any impact. So we've got one really hot startup which we've invested in seed round. And I don't think there's any difference in the conversation that the Series A guys are having, which is very different. So if you're a good startup, if you're in a good sector, that's an edtech, I don't think you're going to see any material difference in the valuation nor this thing. The challenge will be if you're a good team in a slightly tricky sector, like say hospitality SaaS, or stuff like that. That will be the tricky thing. But yeah, I'm happy to kind of take a pause here and for you to kind of ask me questions.
So the coronavirus has acted like a time machine for edtech startups, advancing their rise by 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So can you elaborate a bit more on this question, or rather on this statement?
Yeah. So I think there's a term in math called forcing function. And so what coronavirus has done, as much as a time machine is, basically we kind of reached 1980, the amount of money being spent on restaurant eating had just kept going up, and the amount of money spent on home eating had just kept going down. But suddenly now it's gone back to that. So what it meant by is it's gone back 35 years. So restaurants today are only able to deliver takeaways or something like that. More people are eating at home, etc. So if you're in the wrong industry, it's taken you back by another 30 years or 20 years or 10 years. So this is what it meant. So COVID's had this time machine impact, taken forward certain industries. So it's acted like a forcing function, pushing forward certain industries and pushing back certain industries. So this is really unfortunate. It's unfortunate. There's nothing you can really do. And there's a great kind of a wonderful tweet by Kaushik Mukherjee of Sugar. Um, Great founder. So Kaushik says, hey, I've always wanted to kind of be equal to Lakme and everything. And guess what? I've actually hit Lakme sales, but both of us are at zero. So both of us have kind of gone back. So I think Bira's Ankur also kind of did a similar tweet, etc. So unfortunately, they've all met their goals of being equal to number one, but hey, it's zero. So that's what I meant by time machine. COVID's role is to act like a forcing function, pushing forward certain things or pushing back certain things. And this is really what I meant. Yeah.
How is it acted in a forcing in that forcing function capacity when it comes to startups looking at their marketing economics? How do startups think about this, and how do they model the sensitivity for their marketing?
Yeah. So if you have a mild COVID lift, then your CAC should have dropped significantly. Okay. So some of our edtech people are beginning to see people who had 5-digit CACs are beginning to see low 4-digit CACs. The people who assumed mid 4-digit CACs are beginning to see 3-digit CACs, low 3-digit CACs. It's crazy. So specifically, I would think that this is a great time, especially if you have a COVID kind of a lift business, to really rethink your assumptions and economics. You really don't need as much money for marketing because there's a lot of pull factor. People are also looking out for these things. So if you're not if you're COVID, if you're COVID impacted, let's say you're selling online cars like Spinny. Nothing you can do. You can just wait. Urban Ladder. What can you do? You just wait. And in that case, again, there is no thing because, of course, your revenue is pushed out. My sense is, I don't think you should spend a lot because there's a lot of revenge consumption building up. There are people wanting to improve certain things. Like for Urban Ladder, people are waiting to buy a computer desk. That's me. That's another 30, 40, 50,000 going to happen on a computer desk because I'm without a computer desk now. So stuff like that. There's a lot of revenge consumption, as they call it, waiting up. So my sense is, it's not a great thing if you're an ad tech company. I don't think it's a great situation to be because the people who typically are doing well don't really need you because there's a natural traction. The people who really need to drive, need sales, I think they'll get a bit of lift once lockdown opens. So I think market economic wise, I think it's a good time. You need to kind of tap distribution. You need to drive, I think, organic as much. I don't think inorganic is really there's a real big need there. So I would say that cleverly, if you can track some of the kind of use growth hacks, I don't think you need to spend a lot on advertising.
What are some of these growth hacks that some of your edtech, like for example, ClassPlus and some of your other portfolio companies are actually using at this time of turmoil?
I think referrals big and beginning to see WhatsApp emerge as I know China has got WeChat and I don't think WhatsApp is that level. You don't have payment built in and all that, but in an ability to leverage social graph. So we have a edtech company. It's in stealth mode, but really bright team, and so it's a new age one is to few online learning platform. And what they do is send a message to the parents, and it's sort of encourage the parents to forward it to create a group, a one is to few learning group online. And parents are calling their friends extra. So they're leveraging the parents' social graph to kind of put together a team. And so this is something that we have seen referrals, kind of creating a group. Like, for example, if you want to order something, like Ninja Cart has used that, saying you create a group and we'll give it to one person. So I would say that so in the case of ClassPlus, there's fair amount of demand, because suddenly at centers without they don't have an option. So ClassPlus is one of the few which has live this thing, etc. So in their case, they've not had to do anything. I think it's their opposite problem, the problem of plenty. If anything, I think retention debt is going to build in. They need to kind of be a little more careful on holding on to some of these. So I would say the right companies now are, as like, for example, if you've got a lot of free customers, the worry should be like in 30 days from now, I've got to hold on to these customers. So that's the focus area. That's where the bright mind, the thinking should happen. The founder should be thinking about. You have got so much traffic now, let me hold on to it. Especially true of digital media, where they're not paying, games. They're not paying as much as EdTech is. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so just going back to the point about revenge consumption, right? And you mentioned digital media. So I just want to draw that kind of sensitivity between people seeking retail therapy as a part of this revenge consumption and that sort of marketing spend that will come in at that time. So how do you think that will work out in the coming couple of months?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is some of that advertising can do cleverly can be to kind of get primacy in the sense that, I mean, if I want to buy something, then can I kind of get the customer to pre-order it or just kind of like be in the top of my mind so that when I'm ready to spend, I think of that brand first. So if it's like a computer desk, let's say, just it's a random thing. So is there a way in which like on Amazon, I can get that person to pre-order or really just remember that this is the best desk? So I think this is a good time to do those kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think, I mean, advertising alone is the answer. I mean, and that has partly been the problem with, I think, our community that we've used a lot of VC money in advertising. And I think there are a lot of cleverer methods we can use and a lot of organic ways in which you can drive traffic. And I think content marketing, you name it. Okay. So being clever on social media, I think it's time to do a lot of that now and to kind of we kind of occupy that scarce, that real estate in the customer's mind. And that's what we should be focusing on, in my humble opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just switching gears a little bit, let's move on to something that's a little more generic in nature and kind of speak about how the entire talk of VCs shifting focus from high growth startups to startups that are more sustainable has been, right? So is profitability going to be a prerequisite for this early stage funding going forward?
No, it's not going to be. So profitability is not, but some thinking around unit economics is critical. And so what I mean by that is, look, Blume's an early stage investor, right? Typically at the first institutional check or maybe second, so typically the only ones who come before us are angel investors, etc. So if we are sort of at the seed pre-A stage, we can't put conditions just profitability. Startups are about running experiments, right? So founders have great dreams, vision, attacking huge problems, gnarly problems, and all we tell them is, hey, take this money, attack these problems, and just be at it. At this point, we can't put too much conditions on them. So our role is to really help them discover, get to product market fit, discover the deepest, most formidable revenue stream there is, not the nearest revenue stream. So we help them think through that. Profitability is not at all a priority. Even Series A profitability is not the priority. Growth is, but same-ish growth is. So for example, what we want to see is around Series A and Series B onwards, you get into what's called rinse and repeat. Let's say you've made it work for broadly, let's say a city, okay, or 5 pin codes. And you're telling them that, hey, we worked in 5 pin codes. Now we can expand it to 50 pin codes. So each pin code takes 10 lakhs to build. So give us 5 crores. So something like that, right? So this is really what Series A or Series B guys want to see. But to get to those 5 pin codes working with unit economics is what we really encourage. Because you can always visualize certain behavior that you don't have to spend as much. Okay, so the founder. So two things. One is unit economics. Second is there some customer acquisition? Is there some proprietary distribution channel? Is there something by which you're not spending each time? If your CAC is not coming down with every incremental customer after a certain point, then I think I would worry about that business. So this is the second thing. So your business should see the CAC. That's what PMF to an extent is, right? Your incremental CAC comes down to word of mouth, etc. If that's not coming down, if you have to kind of outbid everyone to kind of get that customer, then that's not a sustainable thing. So I think we need to kind of understand this. I don't think profitability is a real worry. I mean, a lot of the Series C businesses, an academy, etc., they really, really want to be profitable. They can be profitable. It'll create pain. They'll lose growth, etc. They can be profitable. It's not that they can't be profitable. It's just that they don't want to be profitable because they're chasing growth, and we encourage them to do that. I think that's the way to see it. So an academy is a sustainable high growth business. It's just that it's choosing certain market behavior. Okay, so that's the way I would kind of see it. I hope it clarifies. Else I'm happy to clarify.
That's actually there's one thing, Sajid, that I think would be helpful to our audience. How do you help a founder think through what is the nearest revenue source versus the deeper revenue source?
Yeah. So this is sort of a kind of it's sort of the what you call the art of venture capital or VC as opposed to the science. There's really no way to kind of sing it. But fundamentally, we encourage the founder to kind of not they're always low. Like for example, um, we don't push a monetization per se, but we push the right kind of monetization to say that experiment with multiple models. So pricing, for example, okay. So in the edtech company, we, for example, if it's very clear that they to pay, we encourage them to look at, for example, pay by subject, pay annually, pay this thing. What's the price? Do you want to kind of try a referral scheme, etc., etc. So so in some cases it's very clear. In edtech, for example, the customer has to pay. In more complex business models, we kind of encourage. So, for example, if it's like if it's like a company that is, let's say, it's in a SaaS this thing, okay, and so we help them, for example, discover a customer constituency which has got this problem. We help them define the problem sometimes. So sometimes the founders create a great product. They know that, okay, this is an API, it does this, but which is the market in which this API premium will be highest, or how do you kind of price this? How do you kind of sell this, etc. So a lot of those questions really in helping them define which customer to go after, how do you go after, and stuff like that is really what is it. Sorry, I mean, I don't think I've been very clear, but like I said, this is one of those. Yeah.
That is pretty insightful. That is as clear as you can get with a question like that, I believe.